Madam President, Mrs. Rajavi, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me first express to the Iranian people here tonight, to their families and friends of the victims of the atrocious massacre. We have seen incredible video clip of September 1st, the deepest sorrow and the friendliest solidarity of myself and also of the Italian people. I wish that the inspired words and the enormous courage shown all along the last years by Madame Betancourt may signify a strong wake-up call to the international community to wake up and put all the lights and all the attention on the situation in Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty. Just a few days ago, the UN Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, stated that every effort must be undertaken to assure the safety of all residents in Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty. The High Commissioner underlined that prompt and independent and, I would add, internationally monitored investigation must be carried on. These criminals must be taken to justice. They must be punished for the horrendous murders perpetrated against 52 persons protected by the 4th Geneva Convention. Equally criminal was the abduction of 7 residents of the camp to an unknown location in Iraq. And the risk is now enormous of having them thrown to torturers and killers in Iraq or in Iran. When many of us met last June in France on the occasion of a successful gathering of the National Council of Resistance, the appeal was strong and very clear. First, that further violence against Camp Ashraf will not be tolerated any longer by the international community, by our governments and public opinion. Second, that this issue must be kept as a constant priority at the agenda of the EU ministerial meetings. We agreed at the last meeting in June. Must be taken at the agenda of the EU ministerial meeting, since the protection of asylum seekers, refugees and residents in areas like Camp Ashraf and Liberty goes much beyond the committing obligations deriving from international norms. It is a moral imperative for a generation, for our generation, which has experienced genocides and massacres which could have been avoided just by caring and paying more attention. If we are not able to respond to our commitments vis-à-vis Camp Ashraf and Liberty, how can we even dream that there will be a day when wider commitments to protect, enshrined in the UN 2005 summit conclusions, will ever see the light? I know that the EU Foreign Affairs Council can make the difference, and it can make the difference whenever others do not speak up on human rights, on humanitarian protection, on massacres or genocide. So let us launch again an appeal from this floor to the European Union as a whole, to the European governments individually, and to Cathy Ashton to take the lead in requesting the Iraqi government the safe release of the 7 hostages who were kidnapped from Camp Ashraf. As a third point, the Syrian tragedy has been taken as a dreadful and cynical opportunity for the thugs who have assaulted Camp Ashraf over the last month and weeks, not only September the 1st, although it was much the worst crime they ever did, and for those who have attempted again to kill even when the survivors were on their way to Camp Liberty last 11 September. 3 months have gone by since the Paris NCRI conference, 3 months of blindness and inaction, 3 months which have been exploited by terrorist groups which are well known by us all to bring about more casualties and horror, 3 months of warnings and appeals which have been wrongfully neglected or insufficiently listened to. Now it is the time to put an end to all this. Deployment of UN Blue Helmets and UNAMI monitoring team must take place immediately, as for the building of a proper defense structure at Camp Liberty. Paramount importance is to be given to the return of the 7 persons abducted. And let me be very clear again on this. UNHCR has stated, and I quote, 7 individuals disappeared on September 1st and are being held somewhere in Iraq and may be at risk of being returned to Iran. The primary responsibility lies with the government of Iraq. End of quote. I heard already unwanted and unacceptable excuses, such as the violence in Iraq is so widespread that Camp Ashraf massacre and abductions should be seen in that context. Militia and terrorist groups operated far away from any realistic control of the government, and I hear similar tales. We know the truth. The Iraqi authorities must be held accountable. UNAMI should pursue this issue with the greatest vigor. This is a case of UN-protected persons abducted from a camp whose safety was internationally guaranteed. In conclusion, we are not talking about law and order in a country like Iraq facing so many difficulties. We are addressing a more specific issue, the need to respect and abide international obligations which pertain to human rights and life on protected individuals. Never again should the international community be silent or distracted on Ashraf massacres today, as it had been the case for Srebrenica in the past. Thank you.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for inviting me. For me, it's an honor to be here and to support you and to honor your casualties of Ashraf. Ladies and gentlemen, we are meeting again and again in Paris, Berlin, or today in Geneva, demonstrating our support, our solidarity and empathy with your comrades at Camp Liberty. And now for 7 hostages as well. In the meantime, we have witnessed 5 massacres against your friends at Camp Ashraf and Camp Liberty. The last one with 53 victims, brutally murdered, handcuffed and shot in their hands. A politically motivated killing by announcement. I call it killing by announcement because foreseeable. The government of Iraq is responsible for the security of all residents. But so far, the Iraqi government has not protected the residents at all. Therefore, the Iraqi regime is responsible for the massacre. Everybody knows how close President al-Maliki is with the Iranian regime. Everybody knows about the strong ties between the Iranian Secret Service and the Iraqi government. The government of Iraq is accountable for the crime at Ashraf, and it is accountable for the fate of the 7 hostages as well. Ladies and gentlemen, after every massacre, we are writing letters, petitions to presidents, prime ministers, ministers, to the Secretary General of the United Nations, to the High Representative of the European Union, again and again, asking for protection of the people at Ashraf and now of Liberty and for asylum in Europe and North America. Public demonstrations and meetings are organized, as today, demanding protection and support for the hostages and the asylum seekers at Liberty. We need immediate actions. Actions to free the 7 hostages as soon as possible before they are extradited to the Iranian regime or killed. We need actions to protect the people at Liberty as long as they have to stay there. So far, United Nations has badly failed, leaving the camp residents completely unprotected. Why does UNHCR the interviews not within Camp Liberty, but outside? It would help the residents to be protected, to have the interviews within the camp. Why had the United Nations never considered stationing blue helmets at Liberty? The US in particular has failed, and the Europeans are passive as always. The Iranian regime has only one interest: to annihilate all of them as soon as possible. We have to fight for the survival of all people at Ashraf and for the 7 hostages. It is our duty, and we should never give up. Don't give up your hope. There are sometimes dreams, but sometimes dreams get realistic. And this, I do believe that the Iran will be once again a free country. Thank you.
Madam Rajavi, what else needs to happen before the international community finally understand that the life of Iranian refugees is in permanent danger under the current circumstances in Iraq? How many dead? How many wounded? How many hostages are necessary for the international community to do something really effective for the life of Iranian refugees? What else needs Naip Pillai? What else needs Ban Ki-moon? What needs the USA administration and the European Union community? How long the life of Iranian refugees should be in the hands of pro-Iranian government in Iraq? How long will the international community look elsewhere to the sorry plight of Iranian refugees? How long? Are we going to be late once again? How much evidence? Today we talk about the recent massacre in Camp Ashraf, in which 52 defenseless people were killed in a brutal attack in which Iraqi forces abducted 7 members of the camp, including 6 women. Nearly 100 unarmed and defenseless refugees, members of the main Iranian opposition movement PMOI, have remained in Ashraf according to a quadripartite agreement signed between US, UN, Iraq and PMOI on August 17, 2012. They were in charge of the supervision of the property of the 3,000 others who were moved from Ashraf to Liberty near Baghdad last year until the property could be sold or compensated. Since 2009, when US forces handed over the protection of Ashraf to the Iraqi forces, the camp has been attacked several times by Iraqi forces. The last massacre of defenseless refugees who all have the status of protected persons under the 4th Geneva Convention and were also declared people of concern by the UN High Commissioner for Refugees is tantamount to a crime against humanity. But in fact, why are we here today? We strongly condemn the events of September the 1st in Camp Ashraf. So, what have we come to request here? First, we ask the urgent release to the 7 hostages by Iraq. We request that the Iraqi government must be held to account. And also, there must be an independent international investigation into the Camp Ashraf massacre. We ask to a station of a permanent blue helmet team at Camp Liberty. We call for the provision of urgent protective equipment at Camp Liberty, including double-layer roofs for trailers and the return of steel walls and concrete bunkers. I know that many relatives and supporters of the residents have gone into hunger strike in London, Berlin, Ottawa, in Camp Liberty, and here in Geneva. And the only remaining means to put pressure on the international community to act. They must not ignore it. Thank you very much.